You know what that was right there? That was one of those hashtag needed that kind of days where we picked one bet that we really liked, and that was the Colorado Avalanche, and that assortment of same game parlays where we had the plus 1.5 with the under 7.5, and we even had the plus 1.5 with the under 5.5, and both of those hit. But more importantly, we knew there were going to be some rats on the board, and once again, by we, I mean me. And I stayed away from Edmonton. Oh yes, they're one of those completely untrustworthy teams. And they showed us why once again, the Edmonton Oilers. And just think about if you had the Oilers, how much they toyed with you. They kept falling behind. Then they came back all the way to 4-4, had the chances in overtime, had a power play at the end of the game, only to lose in the shootout. And then they even had a lead in the shootout with McDavid. So that was tough there. And then Brian Elliott, I mean, he actually ended up getting a shutout, and the Arizona goalie stood on his head in overtime. However, the Lightning lost. The Oilers lost. So there were rats out there, but I said I don't think the Rangers are going to be a rat. And sure enough, that puck line came through. The OddsShopper bunkers with my approval came through on that one. The Panarin assist came through. So that was a good day to right the ship a little bit. I was happier about the stayaways, to be honest, because I know you get tempted to take Edmonton. You see Detroit coming in there. But don't worry, if you really wanted to bet against Detroit last night, we're going to wet your beak with a bet against them tonight. How do you like that for a little teaser, huh? You like that? Not as much as you're going to like the DraftKings Sportsbook promotion. You bet $5 on anything, any game, any time, and DraftKings Sportsbook will immediately credit you with $200 in free bet credits that you can use right after you place your first $5 bet. You just got to be over 21 years old, located in an area where sports betting is permitted, and just remember, if you got a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Somebody will be there to help you out. But 1-800-GAMBLER ain't going to be able to help out the Detroit Red Wings, who played an extremely exhausting game last night. So if you bet on the Oilers last night, I'm sorry that you did, but you were definitely entertained. It was definitely an entertaining game, back, forth, comebacks, overtime, shootout, mentally exhausting, physically exhausting. You name it exhausting, and it was that kind of exhausting. So now Detroit has to get right back out on the ice tomorrow night against Calgary, who desperately needs these points to stay alive in that Western Conference race. And that's a nice witch's brew to take Calgary, if you ask me. Those are the proper Calgary ingredients. And I know you're going to say, I mean, they're pretty heavy favorites against a team that just won 4 in a row. Well, I think that's because the sportsbook knows the same thing that I know. This is a prime spot to bet against Detroit. I'm okay taking the 60-minute line. I think it's, did I see it at minus 145, minus 150 or something like that? But don't worry, Andy's here to bring this bet to plus money. If you want to take the Calgary Flames, take the Flames and combine that with under 7.5. So Flames to win, under 7.5, that will get you plus 105 or something of that nature. And for the team that I have the strongest feel about on this night, that's a way that you can get it into plus money, or you can juice something else that you like with Calgary on the money line. Well, what else do you like? What else do I like? Well, you guys know how these unders are going. You see, you had the Avalanche and Minnesota, 2 teams vying for playoff position. You're starting to see this. You saw this with Dallas, Boston, when you got 2 teams vying for playoff positioning. You're getting tightly checked games, especially in this final third and especially in this final 25% of the season that we have coming up. You're going to see this more often, especially when you got teams fighting for playoff spots. So I'm going to be looking at some of those. We got a few of those here on the slate. The first one I'm going to go with, we got 2 of our teams, and I know these aren't necessarily playoff teams, both of them, but one of them certainly is, and the other are right in our tier. You guys know the rules here. Not like the rules of staying alive in a horror movie that Randy gives you in that scene by the TV and screen, but the rules of when 2 of our under teams play each other. Well, we have our list of teams. You should know who they are. All right, I'm not making a list for you. We've bet on them throughout the course of the season. One is Columbus. The other is Winnipeg. We took Winnipeg versus Seattle last night, or 2 nights ago. That under hit 6.5, so we got 2 of those. Once again, I'm going under 6.5. So yes, you have to purchase that up. I don't want to purchase it up, Andy. Well, I don't know, depending on your site. Like I saw FanDuel had it at 6.5. I saw other ones had it at 6. Regardless, you move it to 6.5. Why? Because you know what we're going to do. We're going to combine it with another 6.5. Another one that's at 6 that I want to buy up. Why? Because we have 2 of our under teams. 2 teams that we repeatedly take unders on. And that is the Flyers and the Kraken. I'm not going to just keep retelling you the same thing about the Kraken because now it's just getting repetitive. 1 month ago we said unsustainable shooting percentage, and the unders have been coming through left and right for us. And it happened the other night. I'm looking for it to happen again in this particular game. So if you want to combine those 2 unders in those 2 games, I think that's a good bet to take. That will give you pretty solid plus money if you take the under in Winnipeg Columbus and take the under in Philadelphia and the Kraken game. And another game that I like, actually before we move on to that, I want to look at that Kraken game. The Kraken, they've been dropping games quite a bit since the All-Star break. They really need one. I think they're going to put forth a good effort against Philadelphia. Just because of how poorly Seattle's been playing recently, I am a little worried. However, they lost some games. Then they got to overtime versus Winnipeg, who's a good team. I like them to come home and beat Philadelphia. A way you can bring this one down that I like is taking the Kraken with either under 2.5 goals in the first period. So you can do the Kraken to win and under 2.5 goals in the first period, or under 7.5 goals with the Kraken, or honestly under 6.5 goals with the Kraken. Any one of those varieties I can get behind. And now I'm going to go over to another team. The reason I'm going to give this one, I have to admit, Florida has been very untrustworthy the entire year. I brought this up the other day, and what happened? After a great win, they lose to the Blues. So it's very hard to try to predict exactly what they're going to do. However, I know that I trust some of the personnel on their team. They're going up against a team who I've spoke poorly about all season. And they came through for us with a loss the other night on their home ice. And I'm hoping to see that once again with the Washington Capitals, who will be without, double check this, just double check. They said he's supposed to be out for like a week, dealing with personal family issues. But if there's no Alexander Ovechkin for the Washington Capitals, give me the Florida Panthers to go in there and win that one. Both of them are fighting for like the exact same playoff positioning. So I do tend to believe this one is actually going to go under. I know you see those 2 teams, you're like, oh my God, what are you kidding me? I'm going to mess with Florida unders. But we kind of said the same thing the other night when Florida played, and it was a 1-1 game going into overtime. Yes, that was Minnesota. But Washington, to me, they've been one of my under teams all season long. Now, you remove Ovechkin from that, and I do think this one, when you have 2 teams fight, like I understand if this was 2 teams going back and forth and it was October, I would be scared. But when the points mean a lot, you're more likely to get the safe plays. And I think you're starting to see that with the scores when you have 2 playoff hopeful teams playing each other. And I really do think this might be one of those. So if you want to take, how about this? We've been doing this quite a bit. We can do the coward, Florida plus 1.5, under 7.5. But then let's do Florida to win under 7.5. And I really do actually like the under 6.5 and plus money. A variety of ones I like on there, but I need to stand by my original predictions that Florida would be a better team long term. I mean, God, they have some seriously good players over there against these old, rickety Washington Capitals who won't even have Ovechkin in this one. So I'm going to take the Florida Panthers in that one versus Washington. And that's what I got for you here on this Thursday as we try to build on a pretty nice Wednesday that we had there. Now remember, that Rangers puck line, along with the Panarin assist, that kind of was guided by some of those picks over at OddsShopper that I was looking at before yesterday's video. Make sure you go over there and check some of those out as well. Go over to OddsShopper and go shop some odds. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the OddsShopper channel here on YouTube. Come find me on social media. It's at Andy Francis. I love when you guys send me those tickets like you have the last couple of nights. Congrats to Larry, who hit a massive one last night. Reached out to me. Good stuff there. Let's hope to continue this going into the rest of this week and into the next week and into playoffs and above and beyond and all that good stuff. All right, everybody, take it easy. Have a good one. I will be back with you tomorrow. Hopefully, we're all in a good mood. See you then.